Okay, so we're working on Essay 1. Let's get started. So what we're going to be using this whole semester is the writing process. And basically the writing process is where we break down the act of writing a complete work into small parts. And it's like, I don't know if you're a fan of Bruce Lee. I'm a mild fan. It's not like I can quote Bruce Lee at any moment, but one of the things that Bruce Lee is famous for is that he was so fast, he was so quick with his moves that unlike most martial artists, the camera people had to slow down the film in order to see his kicks, in order to see all this cool stuff that he was doing. The camera people, they had to slow down the film. And what he said was, even though he was moving in a fluid motion, it was possible to break down every single thing that he was doing into small things and then perfect them. And then over time, it made it seem as though everything he did was fluid, everything he did was a single motion, when in reality, it was multiple steps. Writing and communicating is the same way. So we're going to talk a little bit about the writing process. Now, first of all, when it comes to the writing process, well, let's start from the beginning. Now, we know the assignment, right? For all of our essays we're writing, we have to write about something. And so you have an idea of what the assignment is going to be. But just in general, when it comes to communication, when it comes to writing in general, there is a process, and it goes a little something like this. So the first step in this process, first step is what we would consider invention. Okay, so the invention process. We have to invent something before we can utilize it. And we call it invention, but just very practically, you can think of it this way. I have to think of it before I can apply it, right? I have to have something to say before I go off and say something. I don't know if you've ever, I've done this before, like, I forgot what I was trying to say, like, hey, and I finally get so-and-so's attention, and I'm like, have a nice day, or something like that, where I completely forgot what I was trying to say. And so you have to have something to say in order to be able to construct a sentence, a paragraph, an essay. So we have to really think about this. What am I really going to say? It's not enough to just start writing or start speaking, because you're not really going to go anywhere. What is my goal? In order to do invention, okay, we have a process, and there's 3 different exercises that we can do. On the first essay, you're going to do all 3 of them. It's like when you go to grandma's house and she makes you try everything on the plate. I'm going to make you try everything on your plate. Yes, I know you don't like green beans, but that's okay. You're going to try them anyway. After you try them on the rest of these essays, you can do whatever you want to do. So you can just choose one of the 3. But on the first essay, you're going to do all of them. One is brainstorming. Okay? With brainstorming, you're essentially making a list of ideas. You're making a list of possible things that you could talk about and possible things that you can say about those things that you're going to talk about. So in essay 1, we're just simply saying, okay, I know I have this thing I need to do. I need to teach a lesson using a story from my life. Okay, well, what are some stories in my life? And what are some lessons or some, the moral of the story? What is a truth about life that I've learned from some stories? Well, maybe you might have a bunch of stories in your life, but you really didn't learn anything from it, right? It was just that time I wrecked my 4-wheeler, or, that time whenever I learned, that you have to, throw away food after it goes bad, or something like that. But let's hope we all learn in our own ways. The point is, there are some times whenever it's just, something just happened. Okay, I got in a car accident. Well, okay, maybe there is a lesson there. Maybe the lesson is that we need to slow down and not get in too big of a hurry, because when we get in too big of a hurry, oftentimes things in life will happen that we don't want to have happen. Okay, great. There's a moral. So I can write that down. Basically, you're making a list. And we're going to go into this a little bit more in depth as we get into the next section. The next thing is clustering, which is one other way to do brainstorming. It's very similar, only with clustering, what we're going to be doing is we're kind of drawing a mind map. And I'll go into clustering in the next video whenever I cover all three of these things. I'm just kind of giving you an overview right now. After clustering, we also have free writing. Now, free writing is essentially where we just start writing and we kind of, I always call it word vomit. I'm sorry if that, it's like, oh my God, he said vomit. But, basically what you do is you just start writing. And it's not going to be that coherent, but ideas are going to come up. And as those ideas come up, you're like, okay, I'm going to go with that. And basically it's an exploration of an idea. That's basically the exercise. You're exploring the ideas as they come to your mind. And that is free writing. And again, I'm going to go over that in another video. Once we've done the invention process, the next step on that is audience awareness. Okay, so when it comes to writing, we have to understand that the most important thing in communication in general is that your message is understood by the people who you're trying to speak to, right? Yeah, that's right. I said that right. The whole goal of communication is to be understood, right? It's not just to say a bunch of words that mean something to me. It's something that we are doing for a purpose. We're trying to get our point across. Nothing's more irritating than I'm trying to say these things to you, but man, you're just not getting it, right? The whole goal is to make sure that the other people get it. And if you can't do that, it's on you, right? It's not on them. Maybe it's a little bit on them if they're not paying attention or if they're just really not even trying to listen to you. But really the burden of this comes to the person who's communicating. You want to make sure that your message is being heard. So when you do that, you have to think about who is the audience that's receiving it. So for instance, when we think about our audiences, we think about, okay, what is the age group? What is the demographic? Am I speaking to people who understand specific contexts? So when it comes to audience awareness, if you are writing about maybe running a marathon in the middle of July and your audience lives in the northern hemisphere, they're going to know that in that month it's hot, right? That's one of the hottest months out of the year is July, especially in Indiana where our university is located. Now, that's not the case for every place on the planet though. There are some places on the planet where July is the middle of winter and it's warm in December. And it's like, what? Maybe you didn't know that, but maybe you did. But the thing is, it's something that you have to take into consideration. Who am I speaking to? What do I need to explain? What can I assume that they already understand? What kind of terminology can I use? For instance, if you're an engineer and you're speaking to other engineers, it's okay for you to use language that's specific to electronics or chemical engineering or something like that. But if you're talking to me, I'm not going to understand that stuff, right? Because I'm not in that field. So you have to understand who your audience is so that you're better understood. So you make sure to really get your point across, and that way they can receive your communication effectively. The third thing that we want to do in the writing process is we want to outline. Now, if you ask me, outlining is completely useless if you make it useless. And so many students that are in Comp 1 or Comp 2 will just outline without really trying to look at it as, okay, this is me organizing my ideas so that whenever I write this thing, it's not going to come out like a jumbled bottle of mush. Okay, when you outline and again, we're going to go over this specifically, but outlining is a really important thing, and it's something that Whenever I write, whenever professional writers write, outlines are incredibly important. Now, the problem I think sometimes that comes with outlining is we overcomplicate it, or sometimes we also think that you have to strictly stay by your outline. The outline is just there as a tool, and again, we're going to get into that very soon. Lastly, before you finish your essay, we do drafting, sometimes known as editing, and revision. Okay? So, editing and revision are two different things. Editing is specifically where you go back and you find your typos, misspelled words, grammatical errors, that sort of thing, right? It's the thing that oftentimes is the easiest to do because it's like, well, the verb either works or it doesn't work. Now, revision, this little guy here is the one that a lot of people resist, and that's because revision oftentimes means that you're having to rewrite a whole portion of your essay, or maybe even you have to rewrite the whole essay. And the whole purpose of revision is to, first of all, we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's, of course, it's sometimes difficult to be honest with ourselves when it comes to our writing, especially because we just want it to be over with sometimes. And I get that. But revision is really important because the whole purpose of communication, again, the whole purpose of it is to provide some kind of a clear message to an audience that you're trying to speak to. And when we revise, we have to be honest and we have to say, does this actually do that? Or can I make some changes? And these can be huge changes or they can be small changes. But can I make these changes so that whenever I send this email or send this essay or send this communication, it will be understood even better? Is there any way for me to make it better? Okay, great, I'm gonna try. So this is approximately, these are the steps that we're gonna go through every time we do an essay, and this will be essentially how we're gonna get to that final essay before we hand in that final draft, which hopefully will be the very best possible essay that you can write. So take a look at some of the other videos in this section. We're going to take a look at all of these, and you're going to have a homework assignment for each of them. So it's going to be a good idea for you to take a look at my video, get a good idea of what I'm looking for, and then that way you're working for that final goal of an essay that you're going to really be proud of. All right, let's get started.